What if I told you the WNBA's biggest rookie isn't just rewriting record books, she's rewriting paychecks? Caitlin Clark's arrival didn't just electrify basketball fans, it flipped the entire league's economy upside down. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. The person benefiting most from Clark's rise might not be Caitlin herself, but one of her veteran teammates. Reports suggest that Clark, without ever cutting a check or saying a word, has become a financial lifeline for players who've been grinding in the league for years. One of them, 7-year veteran Sophie Cunningham, has seen her career, her earnings, and even her public image skyrocket since aligning herself with Clark. But how could a rookie making less than 6 figures on her first contract possibly be helping a veteran make more money? The truth behind that question exposes a brand new reality in women's professional basketball, one where loyalty, timing, and brand power are worth more than stats, and where a single player can shift the financial future of an entire league. On paper, Caitlin Clark should be living like basketball royalty. She's the face of the WNBA, the player everyone's talking about, and the reason arenas that once struggled to fill half their seats are now selling out nationwide. But when you look at her actual paycheck from the league, the numbers don't match the hype. Clark's rookie contract pays her just around $76,000 a year, a figure that's shockingly low for someone who's not only transforming the Indiana Fever, but single-handedly boosting league attendance and TV ratings. Meanwhile, her veteran teammate, Sophie Cunningham, earns roughly $100,000 under her one-year deal, a standard salary for players with years of experience under their belt. At first glance, it sounds like business as usual, right? The rookie makes less than the vet. But in this case, that logic completely falls apart. Caitlin isn't a typical rookie. She's the WNBA's biggest attraction, driving millions of dollars in ticket sales, merchandise, and media buzz. Yet the league's collective bargaining agreement keeps her pay capped, meaning the player responsible for the league's financial boom earns less than teammates who benefit from her success. That's where the illusion kicks in. The WNBA's official salaries tell only a small part of the story. What fans see on paper, those numbers listed on player contracts, is nothing compared to what's happening off the court. Because while Caitlin Clark might not be the league's highest-paid employee, she's already its most valuable brand. And her real income, it doesn't come from the WNBA at all. It comes from something far more powerful, the corporate world that's betting big on her name, her image, and her influence. And that's where Sophie Cunningham's story takes an unexpected turn. Because Clark's rise didn't just change her own life, it started changing everyone else's too. The real power behind Caitlin Clark's success doesn't come from her WNBA contract. It comes from the empire she's building outside the league. While most rookies are just learning to navigate the financial realities of professional sports, Clark entered the WNBA already operating on a completely different level. Her name isn't just on a jersey, it's a brand, a movement, and a marketing goldmine. Before she even played her first professional game, she had already secured one of the most lucrative endorsement deals in women's sports history, an 8-year, $28 million contract with Nike, complete with her own signature shoe line. That figure alone makes her one of the top-earning female athletes in the world, surpassing what many entire WNBA rosters make combined. But Nike is just the beginning. Clark's portfolio reads like a who's who of corporate America: Gatorade, State Farm, Wilson, and Topps, each eager to attach their brand to the energy and excitement she brings to the game. These partnerships aren't just about selling sneakers or sports drinks, they're about selling influence. Clark's reach stretches far beyond the court. She's a cultural icon, a social media magnet, and a marketing phenomenon who commands the kind of attention brands dream of. Every post, every interview, every highlight reel turns into engagement, views, and dollars. What's wild is how far this power extends. Her endorsement income, which easily clears several million dollars a year, doesn't just lift her status, it redefines what's possible for every other player in the league.
For veterans like Sophie Cunningham, who spent years grinding for modest salaries and limited exposure, Clark's presence in the WNBA opened the floodgates of opportunity. Suddenly, brands that once overlooked the league are paying attention. Sponsorship budgets are growing. Social media engagement for WNBA content is surging. And here's the fascinating part. This ripple effect isn't just theoretical, it's measurable. Cunningham herself has seen a massive surge in her following, her brand value, and even her endorsement deals since aligning herself with Clark. So while the rookie isn't handing her teammates checks, the money flowing into their pockets has Clark's name written all over it. Caitlin Clark's true currency isn't just points or assists, it's influence. She's not just changing the way people watch women's basketball, she's changing the way corporations value it. And that influence has quietly turned her into the WNBA's most powerful player, both on and off the court. But the ripple effect of that power and how it transformed Sophie Cunningham's career is where this story gets really interesting. They call it the Caitlin Clark effect, and it's not hype, it's data. Cold, undeniable, record-breaking data. The moment Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA, everything changed. Ticket sales exploded overnight. Teams that once struggled to fill a few thousand seats suddenly found themselves scrambling to open upper sections that had been closed for years. When the Indiana Fever hit the road, every game became an event. Crowds lined up hours early, arenas sold out, and jerseys vanished from online stores within minutes. Even rival franchises, teams that once couldn't draw a crowd on their best nights, were seeing record attendance simply because Caitlin Clark was in the building.
But it wasn't just the arenas. Television networks felt the shockwave too. Broadcasts featuring Clark saw viewership spikes of 200 to 300%, shattering WNBA records that had stood untouched for decades. Her games consistently trended across social media platforms, dominating timelines and creating viral moments that transcended sports entirely. Corporate sponsors noticed, fast. Suddenly, the WNBA wasn't just a niche league, it was a growing media property with real commercial power. And it all centered around one player. This Clark effect rippled straight into the league's bottom line. Merchandise sales surged, season ticket renewals jumped, local sponsors started calling again. Even team valuations began to climb. A financial ripple that benefits every player, not just Clark. League executives call it a renaissance. Economists call it market momentum. But for players like Sophie Cunningham, it's something far more personal. Because when one player raises the entire league's visibility, everyone's stock goes up. Cunningham's salary might not have changed overnight, but her earning potential absolutely did. Every endorsement opportunity, every social media partnership, every appearance fee, they're all suddenly worth more because Caitlin Clark has made the WNBA matter in the mainstream conversation. This is the new reality. One rookie's impact has transformed an entire professional league into a business boom. And while Clark is the face of that revolution, players like Sophie Cunningham are proving that knowing how to position yourself in the middle of that wave might be the smartest move of all. Because what Cunningham did next didn't just make headlines, it made her money. When Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA, she didn't just bring talent, she brought tension. Every game turned into a spectacle, every foul into a headline, and every veteran player into a potential villain or ally in the court of public opinion. That's where Sophie Cunningham stepped in, not as just another teammate, but as Clark's unofficial bodyguard, vocal defender, and media-savvy strategist who understood that in the new WNBA economy, loyalty to the superstar could be its own brand. Cunningham didn't hesitate to speak her mind. When critics and players across the league began taking shots at Clark, both literally and figuratively, Cunningham made her stance crystal clear. On her podcast, she fired back at those dismissing Clark's influence, calling anyone who denied her impact dumb as ST. That line went viral instantly. Within hours, sports blogs, talk shows, and social media threads were flooded with clips of Sophie standing up for her teammate. What looked like a simple act of loyalty was in reality a masterclass in timing and perception. Because Sophie understood something most players didn't.
Defending Clark wasn't just about sportsmanship, it was about strategy. In a league suddenly defined by Clark's gravitational pull, every narrative, every camera angle, and every brand conversation revolved around her. Aligning herself publicly with the league's most bankable star wasn't just good optics, it was good business. Behind the scenes, that loyalty started paying off. Cunningham's social media following surged, her podcast audience tripled. Brands began reaching out, not just because she was a solid veteran player, but because she was now part of the Caitlin Clark storyline. And in the fast-moving world of modern sports marketing, storylines sell. Yet what made Sophie's move even more brilliant was how natural it all appeared. Nothing about her defense of Clark felt rehearsed or forced. It came across as genuine, a teammate standing up for another in a league where rookies often have to earn their respect the hard way. But beneath that authenticity was something even smarter. An understanding that the WNBA's new economy isn't just built on performance, it's built on perception. By choosing her side early, loudly, and unapologetically, Sophie Cunningham positioned herself as the veteran who gets it, the player who sees the bigger picture, the one willing to protect not just her teammate, but the league's biggest financial asset. And that decision would soon transform her career in ways no stat sheet could ever measure. Because when the camera zoomed in on Caitlin Clark's rise, Sophie Cunningham made sure she was in the frame too. Not as a background player, but as part of the story. And what came next proved that her instincts weren't just right, they were profitable. Sophie Cunningham's loyalty to Caitlin Clark wasn't just heartfelt, it was strategic genius. Within months of aligning herself with the WNBA's biggest star, her entire career trajectory took off like never before. The same player who had spent 7 seasons as a steady but mostly overlooked veteran suddenly became one of the most talked about personalities in the league. Her name was showing up in headlines, her podcast was charting in the top sports categories, and her social media following was multiplying by the thousands every week.
But the real shift wasn't just in attention, it was in income. Sources close to Cunningham revealed that she locked down at least 7 new endorsement deals after joining forces with Clark on the Indiana Fever. Some of these partnerships reportedly outpaced her WNBA salary several times over. Suddenly, she wasn't just Sophie Cunningham the player, she was Sophie Cunningham the brand. And that transformation didn't come from scoring more points or grabbing more rebounds. It came from understanding the business of modern sports and knowing exactly when and who to stand beside. Every time she appeared next to Clark on camera, every interview where she spoke up in Clark's defense, every viral clip from her podcast, it all reinforced a powerful image, the protector of the league's brightest star. Fans began to see her not just as a tough veteran, but as Clark's trusted ally. And brands saw value in that association. Companies want authenticity, and Cunningham's blend of confidence, charisma, and unfiltered loyalty felt real. She wasn't chasing fame, she was living it naturally. Behind that authenticity, though, was a shrewd understanding of modern branding. Sophie recognized that visibility is currency, and proximity to power multiplies it. By aligning herself with Clark, the player dominating headlines, ratings, and sponsorship dollars, she positioned herself within the same orbit of influence. Every sponsorship meeting, every press opportunity, every fan interaction suddenly carried more weight because of that association. And then came the ripple effect. Her growing influence opened doors beyond endorsements, speaking engagements, appearances, media collaborations, and a stronger negotiating position heading into free agency. Sophie wasn't just protecting Clark on the court, she was protecting her own financial future. It's easy to call this luck, but luck doesn't trend on social media. Strategy does. Cunningham understood that being part of Caitlin Clark's story wasn't about playing second fiddle, it was about creating a partnership where both could win. And as her profile grew alongside Clark's, she proved that alignment with greatness doesn't just elevate the superstar, it can elevate the people smart enough to stand beside them. But soon, the quiet whispers around the league turned into a question everyone was asking.
Was Sophie's support for Clark purely loyalty, or was it a calculated move in a billion-dollar chess game? Eventually, the speculation stopped being just whispers because Sophie Cunningham herself confirmed it. In a series of candid podcast episodes and interviews, she dropped the guard and spoke with a level of honesty that caught everyone off guard. She didn't deny the financial ripple of Caitlin Clark's presence, she embraced it. With her trademark bluntness, Cunningham made it clear that protecting Clark wasn't just about team spirit, it was about business sense. She openly acknowledged what many players were quietly thinking. Caitlin Clark is the WNBA's most valuable asset, and keeping her safe, supported, and successful is a smart investment, not just for the league, but for every player in it. "Look," she said on one podcast, "you can't deny what she's done. She's bringing in fans, money, and media. When Caitlin wins, we all win." That single line summarized the new WNBA reality better than any business analyst ever could. Cunningham wasn't just standing up for her teammate anymore, she was breaking the fourth wall of professional sports, admitting out loud what's usually left unsaid. Loyalty can be profitable. The more attention Clark draws, the higher the league's revenue climbs. The higher the revenue climbs, the more leverage players have in collective bargaining. Higher salary caps, better contracts, more endorsement opportunities, it's all connected. And Sophie, whether consciously or instinctively, positioned herself right at the center of that ecosystem. Her loyalty wasn't blind devotion, it was strategic alignment with the engine driving the WNBA's financial future. She even hinted at the economics of it herself. Protecting Caitlin means protecting the investment. She's not just a player, she's the reason little girls are watching, sponsors are signing, and arenas are full again. That statement hit differently because it wasn't laced with envy or rivalry, it was pragmatic truth. Cunningham recognized that the league's growth depended on Clark's momentum, and by standing beside her, she was securing her own piece of that growth. In other words, she wasn't just defending Clark's legacy, she was defending her own paycheck. This moment of admission peeled back the curtain on a new kind of professionalism in women's sports, one where athletes aren't afraid to acknowledge the financial chessboard beneath the game. It showed that being smart off the court is just as valuable as being skilled on it. Sophie Cunningham's honesty didn't expose weakness, it revealed wisdom. And with that, she turned what many dismissed as simple team loyalty into a masterclass in modern athlete entrepreneurship. Because once she admitted the truth, it became impossible to deny. Caitlin Clark wasn't just transforming the WNBA, she was creating an entirely new economy around it. And Sophie Cunningham was one of the first to realize that playing the business game could be just as powerful as playing the sport itself. The WNBA used to be about stats, championships, and hustle. Now it's about economics. What Caitlin Clark unleashed isn't just a surge in fandom, it's a full-blown restructuring of how women's basketball operates as a business. For the first time in league history, a single player has become a financial ecosystem all by herself, drawing sponsors, driving ratings, and creating revenue streams that extend to every corner of the organization. It's what analysts are now calling the new WNBA economy. In this new landscape, salaries and scoring averages matter far less than visibility and marketability. Caitlin's influence has changed what determines a player's value, not just how many points she scores, but how many eyeballs she brings with her. That means players who understand branding, audience engagement, and narrative positioning can now earn more off the court than on it. And veterans like Sophie Cunningham are leading that charge.
Before Clark's arrival, the WNBA's revenue ceiling was low, its exposure limited, and its financial model heavily dependent on outside funding. Now, everything has shifted. Ticket sales are up, merchandise is flying off shelves, streaming numbers are breaking records, networks are paying more attention, and more importantly, advertisers are paying more money. For the first time, the WNBA is seeing what economists call a halo effect,
where the success of one individual star lifts the value of everyone around her. But this isn't just about fan enthusiasm. It's about negotiation power. The league's next collective bargaining agreement is poised to be one of the most consequential in its history. And when those talks begin, players will have something they've never had before: leverage. Real, measurable, undeniable leverage, backed by data showing that the league can generate massive returns when marketed right. That leverage could transform everything, from higher salary caps and improved travel conditions to better maternity benefits and marketing deals structured around player likenesses. The Players' Union, once on the defensive, will finally be able to go on offense. And it all circles back to one truth: the money Caitlin Clark generates doesn't stop with her. It multiplies across the entire league. Sophie Cunningham's rise proves that players who adapt to this new system early stand to gain the most. She recognized that the WNBA is no longer just a sports league. It's an entertainment brand. And in entertainment, every story needs characters. Clark is the superstar, but Cunningham has become something just as valuable: the supporting force who amplifies the main character while building her own platform along the way. This is the evolution of women's sports: part athleticism, part entrepreneurship, part storytelling. The old model, where players stayed silent, focused only on the game, and let the league handle their image, is gone. The new model rewards those who understand that being seen, being relevant, and being strategic is part of the job. The Caitlin Clark era didn't just raise the WNBA's visibility, it monetized it. And players like Sophie Cunningham are proving that in this new economy, the smartest move isn't just playing hard, it's playing the game behind the game. The bigger picture here goes far beyond Caitlin Clark or Sophie Cunningham. It's about an entire cultural shift in how women's sports are valued, monetized, and understood. For decades, WNBA players were told that their passion and hard work would eventually bring respect to the league. But now, thanks to Clark's meteoric rise and players like Cunningham who understand how to leverage that momentum, that respect is finally being converted into something tangible: revenue, visibility, and power. For years, the narrative surrounding women's basketball was one of perseverance, athletes grinding through low pay, small crowds, and limited media coverage in pursuit of recognition. But today's generation has rewritten that story. They're not waiting for validation from traditional sports media or league executives. They're creating their own spotlight through branding, digital storytelling, and business partnerships that bypass old systems entirely. And at the center of that movement is Caitlin Clark, not just a player, but a blueprint for what the modern female athlete can be: a competitor, an entrepreneur, and an influencer all at once. Sophie Cunningham's story embodies how that blueprint is spreading. She's shown that success in this new era isn't about being the top scorer or the most decorated veteran. It's about strategic positioning. By aligning herself with the league's most magnetic figure, she's tapped into a wave of growth that's redefining what it means to be valuable in professional sports. Loyalty has become branding, support has become currency, and media presence has become an extension of performance. But beyond the financial implications, there's a deeper shift happening, one that speaks to empowerment and agency. For the first time, female athletes are openly discussing money, business strategy, and market value without apology. They're not just participants in the system anymore, they're architects of it. Cunningham's frank acknowledgement that supporting Clark benefits her financially isn't opportunism, it's evolution. It's a reflection of a world where women in sports no longer have to pretend that business is a dirty word. And this mindset is contagious. Other players are watching, learning, and adapting. The new WNBA economy rewards those who think beyond the scoreboard, those who understand that cultural influence drives opportunity. Endorsements, podcasts, social media, and storytelling are no longer distractions, they're extensions of an athlete's legacy. This bigger picture reveals a truth that goes far beyond basketball. When women control their narratives, they control their markets. And when they control their markets, they control their futures. Caitlin Clark may have lit the match, but players like Sophie Cunningham are proving they know exactly how to keep the fire burning, turning visibility into opportunity, and opportunity into lasting impact.
Because this isn't just a new chapter for women's basketball. It's the beginning of an entirely new playbook for how athletes, brands, and leagues operate in the modern era. And those who understand that now, they're not just playing the game, they're owning it. The story of Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham isn't just about two players. It's about a turning point, a moment where women's basketball stopped being defined by what it lacked and started being defined by what it creates. For the first time, we're watching a league where influence, economics, and opportunity intersect in real time. Clark may be the spark, but what's happening around her, the sold-out arenas, the endorsement frenzy, the career reinventions, that's the wildfire. Sophie Cunningham saw that before almost anyone else. She didn't wait for the league to catch up. She moved with it. By aligning herself with Clark, she turned loyalty into leverage and narrative into net worth. She understood that in a world where attention equals value, proximity to power isn't dependency, it's strategy. And now, she's not just benefiting from the Caitlin Clark effect. She's part of it, amplifying it, shaping it, and proving that smart athletes can win both on and off the scoreboard. What this dynamic represents is bigger than basketball. It's the evolution of sports itself, where personality and performance carry equal weight, and where being marketable isn't selling out, it's cashing in. The WNBA is no longer an underdog story. It's a case study in how cultural relevance drives financial success. But the real question now is this: if one player can transform an entire league's economy in just a single season, what happens next? What happens when more stars emerge, when the collective leverage grows, and when the WNBA's business model finally catches up to its audience? Because if Caitlin Clark changed the game, Sophie Cunningham may have just revealed how to play it. The era of silent athletes is over. The age of strategy, branding, and financial awareness has arrived, and the players who understand that won't just make history, they'll own the future. And as the cameras flash, the contracts rise, and the spotlight burns brighter, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The WNBA will never be the same again, and neither will the players who were smart enough to see this shift coming.